Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary O'Connor with the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and with the Aviation Safety Program at the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. This evening, we are pleased to have Brian Soper on our show. Brian works with the National Transportation Safety Board and is a former air traffic controller and is an expert on air traffic control operations at the board. Welcome to Alaska and welcome to Hangar Flying, Brian.
Hi, thanks. Nice to meet you.
We've been talking about pilot reports on our previous hangar flyings and the special investigation report that the NTSB is doing on the pilot reporting or the PIREP system. Brian, can you tell us about the role of air traffic controllers when a pilot report is made?
Sure, absolutely. The air traffic controller actually has kind of a dual role. It really depends. The air traffic controller has a responsibility to solicit PIREPs from pilots during certain criteria or when they observe known weather conditions or whatever, and then also to disseminate that information when they receive it from a pilot. So if a pilot makes a pilot report, it's imperative that that air traffic controller, one, get it down accurately and get everything as it should be, and then to disseminate it as appropriate so that it can make it out to the National Airspace System, to other pilots performing their planning, off to the National Weather Service, and so on. So.
Okay, so starting from the get-go, if a pilot initiates a pilot report, gives it to an air traffic controller or a flight service specialist, where does it go?
Well, if everything optimum, it should go directly into the system and be made available to the users in a matter of minutes, truthfully. So if everything works as it should, the pilot would pass that report, the air traffic controller and or flight service specialist would make sure that was accurate, and then they would disseminate that into a system where they type it into a computer actually, and it's transmitted across the internet and made available to all the applicable people that might use that information in an optimum world.
Sure, and that's what you're here to investigate, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Where those little glitches are.
Yeah, exactly.
So who uses this information? It's available by computer, over the phone with a flight service specialist, with a meteorologist. Who uses this besides those folks?
Well, actually, I'm actually glad you asked that question because a lot of people have a little bit of tunnel vision. Pilots sometimes think that they're providing these pilot reports just for the pilots that come behind them or the other people that might be out flying at the time. Air traffic controllers think it might just be applicable to the pilots that are within their airspace at that time because that's who's affected. And the reality is, that PIREP information is absolutely imperative to the continued honing and better validation of the weather products that are being put out there by the National Weather Service. So pilots use this information, weather forecasters use this information, air traffic controllers use this information, strategic planning and air traffic control uses this information from traffic management units. I mean, there's really a multitude of agencies and people that this information is really important to. So.
Wow, it's got a lot of uses.
It does.
And if a person who is one of these links in the chain has a problem with the system and would like to comment, because you're here soliciting comments, right?
Sure, absolutely. That's exactly what we're doing.
So I understand that there is an email address set up where pilots or meteorologists, air traffic controllers, anybody can call or email and let you folks know where the problems are and what's happened so that you can take that information to your final report.
Absolutely.
And that email address is?
Okay, that's pirepcomments@gmail.com. And don't get it confused with actually passing PIREPs over that email, but by all means, any kind of information that pertains to PIREP and weather dissemination, if you had trouble passing a PIREP, if it seemed inaccurate, if you didn't know how, if you have questions like that, by all means, get us that information and feedback so that we can use it.
And you mentioned that controllers should initiate or ask for a pilot report, but do pilots know when to give a report if a controller doesn't ask them?
Another really good question. We have found in our early investigation here, one of the things that happens is because some people feel PIREPs are so rigid in format, and they're really not in the end game. So pilots should report any observed conditions when they're in them if they feel it would be pertinent to other aircraft or other pilots or anything like that. But they should always pass the PI-REP. Plain language, and getting a PI-REP across is better than not getting a PI-REP at all. So, don't be hung up on the format and whatnot. Pass that PI-REP to air traffic control and/or flight service. And for that matter, you can even pass this information on the ground when you get back. If you're landing at an airfield, there's a lot going on in the cockpit during that phase of flight, and we understand that. But you land at that and you want to pass information, get online and pass that PI-REP via the internet.
Okay, great. Brian, thank you so much for your work on this important investigation and for your efforts to improve aviation safety. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule this week to come on to Hangar Flying, and we look forward to having you back on our next show where we're going to talk a little bit more about how to give those pilot reports and formats and what pilots need to do. So thank you.
That sounds great. Thank you. Really enjoyed being here.
Thank you. On behalf of the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and Alaska Public Media, thank you for tuning in to Hangar Flying. Until next time, fly safely.